Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Dennis and I are just talking technical issues again.
There's always something.
We are of the opinion that they're trying to get us to upgrade StreamYard.
Yeah.
Now, we don't
With-
know that for sure, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think without a doubt they would prefer us to be paying for this service.
I'm sure. Yeah. Anyway, good to see everybody. Jerry's working today. Is that what he
Yeah.
said? Yeah. And I don't know where Steve's at. I sent him the link in an email, but of course he's not used to getting it that way. I've got to get my message text thing fixed on my computer. For some reason it's not being friendly to me.
I could probably text him the link. Not that I think it would do any good, but
No, probably not. He may be sleeping even. Who knows? I don't know what he's doing that early in the morning. Because it's 6 o'clock his time.
yeah, I don't blame him.
No, not 6 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock his time. Anyway, good to see everybody. And some people I know are at the Oklahoma City train show. Steve, I think, is going to be there. I
wanted to be, but I'm on call.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling you last week. If you were going to be there, I'd be there too, and we'd just not do the show this week. But I'm not going to go down because I'm not in the market to buy anything right now. Hopefully that'll change in the future, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, I'm on call, so if I went, what would happen, I have no doubt, is I would get called out, and then it wouldn't be a simple call out that I could take my own vehicle to. It would be a complicated call out that I would need all of my equipment in the state vehicle, and I would have none of that.
Yeah.
So I won't be going.
I hear you. Well, StreamYard actually put a new little feature in the show setup that has to do with camera alignment. So we're going to find out. I've got it set on landscape. We'll see if that is why they put that in there. I got a feeling it is because it has to do with iPhone 16.
It hasn't happened.
Yeah. Well, it has to do with iPhone 16. The reason it's been shifted. You just can't figure out how to get it locked in one spot and not move. Because even when I put it in landscape and hit the lock, then it flips it into portrait mode, which makes no sense, but right. That's what's happening. Anyway, I think they're just playing with us is what it is. Oh, Scott, I can't have enough trains, and I've got way more than I can use. So, yeah, if I had a museum and I was collecting and all that good stuff, yeah, but I got enough stuff that I collect that I don't need trains on top of that. They go on the layout. Anyway, what were we talking about besides technical issues?
Nothing that we should probably discuss on StreamYard.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. And well, Steve, if you're listening, I don't know if you're in here. We need you back on the show, buddy.
Have you done any more teardown, or have you done any layout planning at all for the alleged new layout you might be thinking about?
I've only been upstairs once this week because I threw my back out Sunday night bowling. I didn't even finish bowling. And I've been going to the chiropractor and stuff, but it's not good. I tried to play golf yesterday. That was a fiasco. So I haven't been up there doing anything because it's just too uncomfortable to be there very long. So until I can get my back to straighten up, I won't be. My knee's doing okay. That's thank God for that. But my back is now, and it's my low back. So it's not sciatica, but it's just above that. And if you've ever had back trouble, you know, the lower it is, the less you can move.
Sciatica pretty bad from time to time.
Sciatica sucks. Yeah. I was afraid that's what it was going to be. In fact, this is the same spot that I thought I'd done something with a disc in there a couple of years ago when I went in to see the orthopedic doctor.
Bowling and golf is the top tier of athleticism. Yes, bowling and golf, especially when you throw your back out playing those two sports.
Yeah. And if you saw my approach at the bowling alley, you'd go, "How'd you throw your back out?" And knowing me, as bad as my back is, it could have been getting up out of the chair, one time.
Well,
That's
not to turn the whole stream into ailments, but I think it was last weekend. The wife came back from the store, and there was there's 2 gallons of water, 1 gallon of tea, and a box of cat litter that weighed quite a little bit. I grabbed all 3 of the gallons of water and tea in one hand and the cat box in the other. And I don't know what I did. I turned the right way.
You picked all that crap up at the same time. That's what you did.
Right. And I still have something that pulls from the backside of where my ear is all the way down to my left hip.
Yep. Yeah. Anybody with back trouble knows all that stuff, but it's like, it's people that don't have back trouble. They look at you like, "You're not hurt. You're faking." I've heard that all my life, but yeah, trust me.
No,
once your back starts hurting,
I know that there's no worse, because there's nothing you can do that doesn't involve
your back.
So
yeah, even laying down in bed sometimes, certain positions you can't do that. I had to have them put a board on our cruise. I had to have them put a board into the mattress because it was so soft. Yeah. And after the first night, I told Brenda, I said, "I got to have him change the mattress. I can't sleep on this. There's no way." I tossed and turned on that thing, and I'd never do that on a cruise. I sleep like a baby on a cruise. They put a piece of plywood under that sucker. I was asleep the rest of the cruise. But I have to have a hard surface. She has to have a soft one. So it's,
Yeah, I need a hard surface as well.
Yeah. Well, if you have a bad back, you almost have to. Because otherwise, it's like sleeping in a hammock. You get hurt building layouts. We power through. This is true. I didn't hurt it doing my layout. But being up there now to try and do anything with it and, do any more demo on it. And I'm anxious to get up there and do it, but until I can actually move.
When I had my in-scale layout in the house, I built it at window level. And in the den where I built it, the family room, I don't know, it's probably 2.5, 3 feet from the floor to the bottom of the window sills in there. We got pretty big windows. So it was a very low layout. And at the time that I built it, of course, I was younger and I could sit on the floor and it didn't bother me. I was doing something one time and tried to get up from sitting on the floor, and I completely dislocated my left knee. I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital because if my left knee moves laterally in a certain way, it's just whoop. And that was one of the reasons why I decided I got to do something different with a layout. I can't continue to do what I'm doing on the floor anymore. I'm getting too old, and I need something that allows me to stand or sit.
Yeah. I was sitting. I can't remember where we were, but Brenda was next to me on my right. Oh, it must have been when I took her into the eye doctor. We were waiting for that. And I didn't do anything. Didn't even move my leg, and my knee popped. And I mean popped really loud. And this is not even the one that hurts the worst. This is the better one. And popped real loud, and she looked at me like, "What the hell was that?" I said, "Oh, that's my knee. It does it all the time."
12,000 feet is no joke.
No, it's not. I want to know, Scott, if you don't mind, tell us how old you are. Because I could have done that 30 years ago, but not now.
We went to Leadville, which is 10,000 feet. Oh, it's probably been 4 years ago now, 3. Yeah. We got sick.
Oh yeah.
Because we were not used to that kind of altitude. It wasn't a bad sick, but it was definitely man, I don't know what is wrong with me. I don't feel good today. And we went and ate breakfast, and I got biscuits and gravy, and they put like 5 pounds of salt on. it was unedible. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't eat this. There's just
Too much salt on it.
yeah.
Should give it to Brenda. She
Good
likes salt.
Lord, that was loaded with salt.
Well, Ted and I, when we went, God, how long ago has it been now? 4 years ago, we went up and did the Alpine Loop in a all-terrain vehicle. And we got there the first day in Silverton, and Silverton's only 78, I think, 100. But we were in the upstairs of one of the old hotels, and the stairway is like this. I mean, it's not a stairway you get now, staircase you get now. And by the time we got to the top of that staircase, we both had to stop and catch our breath. And our room was right there next to, I mean, just turn right and our room was right there. I could put the key in the lock, and I couldn't even do that. I had to stop and catch my breath before I could unlock the door. But about 2-3 days later, we were fine, you know. And I'd love to do that trip again. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is who do we know who this is?
Southern? No, I don't. This is a new name.
Yeah, maybe I've seen him in here before, so I apologize for not knowing your first name. But yeah, everything I've done on my layout, I flipped over upside down on the workbench in the garage, did all of the wiring, got everything put in place, and then carried in, just so I would never have to be underneath the layout.
And I did the last 2 sections of mine on that upper deck. I did them exactly the same way. But even after that, you still got to get under them somewhat to cook things together.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. But if you take the time to do it right, you shouldn't have to really ever mess with wiring again.
Well, most of mine was lighting, because I put a lot of LED lights on that little town. So
that is one thing that I wish I could have done, because I do want lighting everywhere on the layout, but because you can't, or at least I couldn't predict exactly where all the buildings were going to land. That's something that's going to have to take place after the fact. But for the most part, I think, that part underneath the layout is going to look like trash, but it will be lower, and it will be the part of the layout that looks like trash underneath there. And you'll know, well, that wiring there, because it's black and yellow, has nothing to do with the DCC, right?
Well, what I would do different too, I would add long leads to every light. And then drop them down and bring everything to the very front edge of that level, whatever level it's on. So all the wiring's right there on the front. Makes it a whole lot easier. What was the other one you had up there? Low elevation guys are pathetic.
Mark.
This is true,
JP.
Mark.
All right. Well, good to see you in here, man. Appreciate anything you have to say and insights on model railroading. We like to hear everybody's opinion about things, for sure.
Yeah. Even yours, Mark. Even though Dave told us not to. Anderson connectors. I'm not familiar with Anderson connectors.
Are those the ones that you just plug in like that?
Oh, like LEDs come with the little bitty tiny ones?
They're not a suitcase connector.
No, like they use on locomotives, on steam locomotives from front to.
Oh, like just a regular standard plug?
Yeah, like a little 2-pin plug. Is that an Anderson? I have no idea.
I don't know. We'll have to look it up. If it's what I'm thinking it is, I think Heath uses them, but I could be wrong.
Oh God, if Heath uses them, And Heath, I was an athlete in my younger day, dude. I played pretty much everything. That's part of the problem.
It is a little different
one reason
than what
my knees
I was expecting. Yeah.
That's one reason my knees are squat now. Between that and plumbing after high school. So they're talking about snow in the mountains. God, that's where I go cruising all the time because my wife likes it. I'd like it too, but I'd prefer to be in the mountains. Problem is, I can't get around well enough now to do any stuff that I used to love the mountains for. I'm going to ask a question. I'm getting echo on my audio. If anybody else is hearing it, let us know. Dennis isn't, so I just want to make sure it's just me, and then it won't be a problem. Because God, if y'all are hearing what I'm hearing when I'm talking, it's not going to be good. Oh, like a Futaba. Oh, I don't know if it's like a Futaba RC plug.
I tried to figure out how to share my screen, but I guess I'm just not smart enough. So
yeah, because I was in RC and I would have heard the term Anderson connector, but I've never heard that before, so I don't know what that is. Uh-oh. Dwayne, you hear the echo? Oh, and there went the camera again. Well, so much for good intentions. It stayed a long time this time. But I don't know what to do about the echo. Mash, let's see. How about now? Can you hear me?
yeah.
I can barely hear you though. And I still hear the echo. I don't know. Too much tech
Dave
stuff for
says he
me.
can hear it, but it's very minor.
Well, yeah, I can still talk and stuff in here, but it's distracting.
Well, it wouldn't be a show if we weren't distracted by
Here
something.
we go. It's Dwayne. I should have known. Yeah, I'm just gonna flip this back up. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Well, hopefully Thanksgiving, I'll get my son in here. He's the Apple expert. And because we're thinking it's the iPhone itself doing it, but we don't know. Because it only happens when we're live on the show. When we're not live, it stays in landscape. What it's picking up and changing, I have no idea. Anyway.
Yeah, but the second you pick it up and lay it back down, it should be it. That should be over. You've told it to be in landscape mode, and there should be no reason for it to flip back up.
Well, and like I say, when I flipped it in landscape and then opened the deal and hit lock, and it flipped it to portrait. So it's like, whoa. Anyway. Uh-oh, somebody's laying track. Okay, hang on here. We're almost there too, Scott. Want to be ready to do bench work and start laying track before Christmas. Ah, nice, Bernard.
Yeah,
we want to see some of that.
You'll have to share some pictures on Back on Track in the Facebook page or something like that.
I tell you what, with my back, that's tempting. This is why I like doing this show. We got a great community of this. Anyway. So I haven't been doing any railroad stuff. I need to pawn off a bunch of crap to Dennis.
Well, I've probably been doing enough for both of us. I feel like I've been pretty productive over the last, 2 weeks now. I've also started doing things a little different in how I do things, which makes it easier for me to kind of stay ahead, I guess, because I'm spending more time talking and less time editing. So
that's a good thing. Editing sucks.
The editing it's so time consuming, and it also messes with my carpal tunnel. So
that's why I'd almost rather do a live stream than do a video, because the videos you got to go back in and edit everything and put it all together. And that takes 4 times longer than doing a video.
Yeah. Which, I like the process. It lends itself to my personality. The only thing I don't like about it is that it is how it affects my hands when I do it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way. I've got arthritis in the hands, and depending on what the weather's doing as to how much I can do with my hands.
Yeah.
And it does come into play, especially doing kits and stuff. And that's where finding a good pair of tweezers is invaluable because you can't hold. And my fingers, I've got short, fat fingers anyway, so I can't. Little bitty parts are hard for me to deal with. But man, a good pair of tweezers are great. And then it's the shaking, can you, the smaller it gets, the more my hand shakes.
Yeah.
Design made a miniature.
Yeah. I would say right now I'm
3D print.
I think I'm 5 videos ahead of where the YouTube channel is. That's like last was it last night? Today, Friday?
Yeah,
No,
last
night before last.
No, night before last. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was like 4 or 5 different people said, "Well, you need to paint. If you paint," and I'm like,
I
already kind of did that. Thanks.
Well, you were talking about it not looking like rock.
Right.
And I guarantee you, I thought the same thing on my mountain. I'm thinking, this looks like a white elephant in here. And as soon as I started putting paint on it, oh, yeah, see?
I did this. I don't want to make myself big here.
I'll get it. There you go.
I did this. I think if I remember right, because this is the next video is going to involve this. I think this is the first weekend in October, or maybe the week of October, the week in October. I can't remember for sure, but I had already gone in and did this. This is I built this. It's probably been a year ago, but I actually built the actual piece, and I knew I was going to need to figure out how I'm going to paint it, and I'm pretty happy with that. I definitely am going to do. I think I'm going to do one more larger piece that I will temporarily put over in the Maroon Creek, or not the Maroon Creek, the Malta area, and do it with just the idea of how quickly can I, and I'll probably do just a video just on it. How quickly can I come up with the landform, carve it, paint it, that kind of thing, and it will be a temporary piece just to put over there for practice. That's kind of a project. I don't think I'll do it this weekend because I want to work on some track work things, but I may do that next weekend.
Well, and I'm not an artist by any means.
Well, I don't consider
and I was
myself
scared
an
to
artist
death
either.
to paint my mountain because I'm not an artist in that regard, a painting artist. And I watched a few videos, and these guys were doing this, just dabbing stuff on and going, pretty damn fast. And it came out looking great. And I thought, well, I'll give that a try. I can always paint over it. And so that's what I started with. I had my main 3 colors, and that's what I started with. And I had a gray, I had black, and I had a rust color. And then I added a little green in some spots that I wanted wet or moisture areas, like the waterfall area and stuff. But I just had a paper towel in one hand, a 1-inch throwaway artist brush, and the other, not artist brush, it's a utility brush, 1-inch utility brush. Dab that acrylic hobby paint on there. If it was too much, dab it off, hit some more if it wasn't enough, add more
paint. Did you
paint
water
if you
it down,
needed.
or did you use it full strength?
I would pour it in a container, in a kind of a pallet dish, or just a bowl, basically. Paint on one side, water on the other, and go back and forth until I got what I wanted. And it was just an ongoing process all the time. And if I wasn't sure about it, I'd leave it till it dried, because you can always come back and add more. But the hobby acrylics are cheap and they're so easy to work with, and they dilute so easily with water. And so it makes it real easy to do that. If, like the black, I would dilute it quite a bit and put it on after the fact. A lot of guys put the black on first.
I did.
I put mine on last because it dulled everything.
Well, of course, that video is going to drop next Thursday, so you'll get to see exactly what I did because I filmed pretty much the whole thing. I think it's a 20-minute video. When I filmed it, I wasn't sure whether I was going to do the whole thing as a video, which usually when I do something like that, I will do the beginning and the ending, even if I don't think I'm going to use it as a whole video, because sometimes I will take a chunk of video like that and plug it in somewhere else if it's appropriate. It wasn't. So I decided to make it a standalone video. And so pretty much you get to see me do this thing, from beginning to end. And I started with raw umber. I didn't use black at all. I used raw umber, which, pure black doesn't exist in nature for the most part.
Well, I used to, that's why I diluted mine down. It was strictly shadowing.
Yeah.
And I wanted it in the crevices and stuff to get that dark shadow.
Well, that's the only place I put mine too.
Yeah. But I made sure that it was mainly in the crevices. And then if you have to, you can come back with a lighter color and kind of dry brush over like the points of rocks and stuff like that and get that. And Steve's saying that the problem with their poor pigments on cheap paints. Yeah, but hobby paints.
What I've heard
in my
and what
case,
I think about them is that the pigment itself is not the grind of the pigment is not as fine, and they don't water down near as effectively as a better quality paint. They still water down, but they don't hold their color as well when watered down as a cheap. Like you can water a really good paint down 10 times more than you can a cheap paint, is my understanding. So you actually get more for the money if you're really watering them down.
I disagree. I used hobby paint or craft paints solely on my layout. That's the only paints I used on it, except for the structures. And even some of those were all craft paint.
Most of mine are too.
I found if it wasn't dark enough, you added more paint. But for 75 cents for a jar of craft paint versus $7 or $8, I can buy 10 of these. I just add more pigment to it. And mine didn't fade. Mine are all that's still the same as it was when I put it on there.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with
I don't know that I agree with the fading thing either. I would have to experience that or someone would have to show me evidence before I would buy that that it would be so significant to be concerned about it.
I could see if you have nothing but fluorescent lights, I could see that happening. And I have fluorescent lights in my room, but they're off when I'm not in there working. And they're not going to be the main lighting when if and when I had gotten the layout completely.
That's my thought too. Even if I have fluorescent lights everywhere in here, they're not going to be on for such a length of time in my lifetime that it would degrade any of those craft paints whatsoever. What I like about these paints, the ones that I use, and again, I don't think I'm going to use the higher quality paints for scenery. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think
it's a waste of money.
Right. If I can find the right color for the broad nature of the layout, that's what I'll do. And then for anything that is a postage stamp, that I'm going to photograph or whatever, I will use those as appropriate, just because for nothing else. They're smaller. They're easier to keep on my my workbench, and I've already got them. So
yeah, but I found for no more than a craft paint cost, you can buy 5, 6, 7 bottles of it, and you won't ever use it up if you use it properly. I mean, it's not like wall paint where you're painting full strength. I rarely had anything full strength, and if I did, it was only in one spot. and then had water washed, or another diluted paint over that to blend it in. So it always got diluted. I never had anything full strength like that, except on the kit, some of the building kits and stuff that I did.
Yeah.
One of the paints, craft paints I really liked was a wicker white, and dilute it just a little bit, and you paint it on something, and it looks like the old whitewash paints that they used to have.
My favorite is this vintage
Without doing
white
anything.
by Folk Art. That's
Which one is it?
vintage white. That's the white
Well,
that I use for pretty much every building I've made has been that
yeah,
particular white.
I think that and the wicker white are very close together, because the wicker white's not white. But I found if I diluted it and put it on balsa wood or basswood or anything else the model's made out of, it looked just like whitewash. And I may come back with a black and go over it a little bit to dull it a little bit more, but most of that I used not full strength. In some cases I did full strength, but it was a dry brush, full strength. And then I'd come back with a diluted of the same color and go over it. And it just looks really good for an inexpensive paint. Yeah, a lot of people do that. I didn't do that, but a lot of people do.
So like I've said before, I'm trying to experiment with different techniques. If I can come up and not use hardly any plaster, to me that would be a benefit. If I can accomplish what I want to accomplish with foam, I think that would be an advantage, and there wouldn't be a need to tint plaster or anything like that.
Yeah, well, the one thing about craft paints is it soaks into the plaster pretty well, and it colors the plaster. Where I didn't do any foam painting with it. I say I didn't. I don't think I did. I think everything I painted was plaster. And I tried Bill's technique, where he did the oil or the stains to get the rock colors, and that works really well. But for me, that was a lot more tedious and harder to get exactly what I wanted than it was with the craft paint. The craft paint's so much easier to take off with a paper towel.
Water and acrylic paint to me is a match made in heaven, and because you can super thin it, and if you do super thin it, you don't have to worry about getting too much on all at once.
Yep. And you keep it, like I say, keep a paper towel or a sponge and take off if you do get too much or drips.
Yep.
It just hit it, just blot it, and it comes off. And of course, the thing about doing landscape, especially a mountainside of almost any kind, the more random it is, the better. Because you go out in nature, that's exactly what you'll find. Yeah, it has changed a lot. Just house paint's changed a lot in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
But don't ever believe what they tell you about primer and paint, and that you don't need primer. If you're doing raw wood or raw anything, use a good primer first. Other than modeling you can get by without using a primer sometimes, but if you're doing a house or anything
your
like
model's
that,
probably not
you
going
want
to be out
primer
in the
first.
weather.
Yeah, don't ever paint on raw wood with a primer and paint combined and think it's going to stay, because all that is more adhesive in the paint. That's all they did to it. Get a decent primer that's made for primer as a primer, and then put a cheaper paint over the top of it, and it'll look fine, and you'll actually save money. At least that's what I found. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I think my whole point there was I found it so incredibly interesting that I could go so fast with the way I was painting and still get it to look like it did, because I had no earthly idea I could make it look like that myself personally. And it came out just like I wanted it. Even the plain plaster areas that I didn't put any rock molds or anything on, came out great. In fact, on my channel, I think I did a kind of a show how I did something, and I did the all the way from the cardboard, the form, and the cardboard to the plaster, to the adding rock molds, and then painting it all. So if you want to see how I do it, you can go see that, and it shows it exactly how I do it. Oh yeah, Floetrol's great, depending on what you're doing. I did that a lot with my airplanes when I was
What is
painting those.
Floetrol?
It's an additive that you put into, like, especially a latex. And what it does is it takes the viscosity and breaks the viscosity of the paint.
I've got
Kind of like putting soap in it. Does the same thing.
Probably the same thing as this. This is
Wedding, yeah,
Golden's
it's a wedding solution.
wedding agent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
always add
Floetrol
a
was
little
made
bit of
for,
it.
yeah, Floetrol was made for spray house painters that do spray equipment, and makes the spray come out much finer, much wetter, and it covers better. I have not used it on any of my train stuff because I don't have that scale that I need. And I wasn't spray painting anything other than the track, and that was right out of the can. So,
Amen.
Dennis, do you have his address? We're just gonna go pay him a visit.
Who?
We'll clip
Steve?
some knees and see what he says about that.
Steve's across the pond.
Oh, well, then he's got teeth to worry about. Okay. Yeah. Well, and he's not as old as we are either.
Yeah, I don't think he. I don't know.
That's the other
Sometimes people just look young, and they're actually are as old as we are.
Yeah, well, it's like Bill Engvall said, when you're when you're 30 or younger, you're talking about girls and women, and when you get a little bit older, 40s and 50s, you're talking about sports and hunting and fishing. When you get over 60, you're talking about all your ailments. So
Yeah.
that holds pretty true, as I remember. One coat bear, they lie. Yeah, exactly. And I'm a Bear fan. It's one of the best paints they ever had. In fact, their regular premier paint that they came out with years ago, before all the primer was put in it. Consumer Reports said that was the best paint that you could buy to put on your home, outside or inside. And I believe it, because that's all I ever used when I was working and doing stuff and matching paints and everything else. It used to crack me up. I'd go into Home Depot, or not Home Depot, but anywhere, and they got the computer matching thing, right? And you go in and you give them something to match, and they go, "Well, did you find a chip that goes with that? That's close to that?" I said, "Why? Because you got the computer that tells you what the pigment is, what the color is,
Mm-hmm.
and it should match up with whatever paint you've got." Some of the people they got working at Home Depot and Lowe's and places like that have no clue in the real world of what they're selling. So don't ever go into Home Depot or Lowe's and ask for plumbing advice. Never, ever, 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 ever. And I got a good friend that used to be a plumber for years. He's as old as I am, and he works at Home Depot, and he can tell people how to do stuff. But there's been many times I was in there and I could overhear something over here that an associate's telling somebody, and I'd have to go over after the associate leave. I said, no, 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 no. Here's what you want. You don't want what he told you. You'll have too much trouble. Number one, casting plaster.
Coloring rocks dries, I will take. Maybe he didn't finish the sentence. I'm curious now.
Probably take it and throw it at you. That's what it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Paint's gotten ridiculous in price. Yeah. Yes. Especially the higher up ends of the paints in each one. That's why you get a decent primer, and I like a Zinsser primer. In fact, the Zinsser primer, their red label, it's the Bullseye primer. If you get the red, it's a lacquer base. You can paint on glass and it won't come off.
Hmm.
I mean, you could scratch it off, but you'd have to really work at it to scratch it off. So it's a really good primer, but I use the water base on outside wood stuff all the time. It's a really good primer. that is so true. That is so true. Yeah.
Or it could be true, but probably not true.
Well, you could
like
find.
if you went to work for Home Depot, Claude, you could probably help a lot of people.
I could, yeah. It's like my friend that works there now. He does. He can in the plumbing part, but he's just one guy, and he doesn't work
Right.
all the time. So
And it's one Home Depot.
it's one Home Depot that he works at. So yeah, and there's a lot of Home Depots out there, and they'll dish out stuff right and left because somebody told them, this will work for this, and a lot of times it's the vendor that told them that, and the vendors are just trying to sell products, so they don't care. But yeah, you got to find a decent plumber, which is not easy to find anymore. Use Crowlers. So
Yeah,
okay, from a lot of base colors. Yeah.
I'm hoping, speaking of track there, that before the first of the year, I will have from where this turnout is here, when I come around the curve here in the Maroon Creek, from that turnout to where it will disappear between the large mountain that is, years away from me working on. I want to have all of that like base coated, painted, ballasted. I don't know to what level of detail it will be, but that's kind of my rest of the year goal from this point working forward. I would like to have that line that's already laid, ballasted and painted before the end of the year. That's kind of a goal I've got right now, which means that I need to lay track off into where the mine is going to be, which I think is what I'm going to work on today.
So are you going to ballast your track, use any of the little tools that they've got for doing that, or are you going to do it all?
I've got a baby spoon that my daughters ate all of their baby food with. It's got that kind of rubber coating on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the perfect size to fit in between the rails. I put it in there and then I use my finger. That's what I do.
I never touched it with my fingers if I didn't have to, because it would just stick to my fingers.
Well,
then it ends up all over the place. So
maybe you have oiler fingers than I do.
I have oily skin. Yeah, it's not a fun life.
Anyway. The real question I'm going to have when I go about doing it, do I have the color of ballast that I want for the whole area? And I think I do. Do I have enough of it? And that kind of thing. Because when you start talking about color, especially when I start, I've kind of made a decision that you can't walk back from if you whatever it is you do, you better kind of like and do enough experimenting to make sure that you feel good about it, because nothing could, at least for me, if I get a bunch of it on there and go, I would hate for that to happen.
Yeah, you could always come back and do a little staining or something like that of it, or painting. But you can't go lighter. That's the problem.
Well, you can. You grab some white paint and you start over.
Yeah, but if you got dark ballast and you put white on it, it's not going to look as good as if you got a light gray ballast and you go dark.
Oh, you're talking about ballast color.
Yeah.
Yes, that is something that you need to make sure that it's going to match
pretty close to what you want.
What you want. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which for me, that's going to be pretty much the buff color that exists in the palette of Tamiya, because I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to use for all of my detail work around track is Tamiya buff or earth. Those two colors work really well with each other. That's the plan.
Yeah, I was going to say with a narrow gauge, and I'm not familiar with Colorado Midland, but I'm sure it's very similar to everything else in Colorado, is a darker ballast. You know, the new main lines may have the lighter gray granite ballast, but back in the day when your railroad would have been built, or what I'm modeling, they were much darker ballast. There were more of the red granite, you know, browns, reds, uh, even dark grays, but starts, you know, start light and I mean, start minimum and add two as you go, because there's a lot of those places on those narrow gauge lines too, where you look at it and go, there's no ballast here. It's basically just down in the dirt. Well, that's why I had more than one brush. That my 1 inch craft brush was the main thing I used, but then I also had a small brush that I could go in the crevices and stuff. What about bare spots? Well, you're not leaving those up there long enough. I'm a slow reader, man. Yeah, you can do that, or just leave it as dirt, especially on a narrow gauge. You know, now mainline stuff, yeah, it's a little different, but
Yeah, I still need some HO roadbed, but I'm not in a hurry for it because uh, I'm going to be working over here probably for the next couple of weekends.
yeah, railroads use what was locally handy, and that was in the Colorado, that was the darker granites.
Yeah, I haven't really done any research on what the Colorado and Midland used, because again, I'm not trying to build the Colorado and Midland. I'm building
Yeah,
the Otter Creek and Rio Grande, but I will do a little bit of research before I begin, just to make sure that it's not something crazy that would have never been used.
yeah, and that's this is a
I've
good
used that
point
too.
too, because especially on narrow gauge railroads or smaller lines, short lines and stuff like that. A lot of them were like that. Didn't even have ballast, or had very very little ballast.
Yeah, like in the time saver, there were places where I just used pretty much pure dirt.
Yeah, and it looks prototypical. I mean, if you go up to Colorado and look at the narrow gauge, or in New Mexico and look at the narrow gauge, that's the way they are.
Yeah,
Some places
there's a
they'll look
picture I
really
have
really
of
nice and well maintained, and some places not so much.
yeah, there's a picture I have of basalt where you can see the three tracks that head off to the Y to what actually would have been the south, I believe. Yeah, it would have been the south. Uh, they're they're just like, you know 9 different little railheads, and the dirt is pretty much all it looks like. You can't hardly see any ties. Uh, whether or not I replicate that or not yet, I don't know, because that's kind of a lot of work. But
Yeah, yeah, that's where a lot of them look that way. And like I say, they're not level. They're not, you know, the track. If you get down on a long stretch, and a narrow gauge track anyway, it doesn't look like a mainline railroad mainline where it's, you know, high speed looking like rail. It's just looks like a bumpy wagon road.
bought a bucket of dirt. Yeah, see, I'm definitely interested in finding dirt in my area that's not red,
Good luck.
because
Good luck.
that's one of the things that is very real for me, that I deal with, is there's not easily available dirt that's not red, that's the consistency that I would want for the layout. Uh, I've got a lot of blow sand out here. If you go in almost anywhere where there's grass growing and you dig into it, it's either going to be red pretty much, or it's going to be blow sand, where the grains are too large to be convincing
Yeah,
uh,
very coarse.
dirt, in this scale. So I bought some Arizona Rock and Mineral stuff that works, but I don't want to spend that much money. I've got way too much layout to spend the kind of, now again, like in an industry, I'm happy to use that stuff, but I've got to be able to blend it with what I've already got, which I think I can do with an airbrush. But it is a matter of finding the right material to make convincing groundwork without breaking the bank.
Well, and the problem with the red soil in western Oklahoma is that it's so bright red for being something that's so natural. I mean, it's to me, it's brighter than a brick red, and it's definitely brighter than what you would find in a red granite ballast.
Yeah,
And
I
so it
agree with
makes it
that.
really hard to blend that in with something you buy commercially, I would think.
And unless I decided that I wanted, because if you go to basalt and you look at the mountains kind of close in and around there, they look a lot like the color, at least color wise, they look a lot like Gloss Mountains, the kind of red dirt that's just laying on the ground everywhere around here and between Enid, and that it's very similar in color. I don't want that on the railroad. I just think that would be too much red. This buff color, a lighter brown color, is what I want the whole railroad to look like.
Yeah.
So, there will be places where there is some red, but I don't want to feel like you're walking into Mars, right? Because that's what I think.
Or western Oklahoma.
Right. That's what I think it would feel like if you walked into the room and I went with that as a color. Oh hell, I just landed on Mars. Yeah. I don't want that.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to people that haven't been here just how red it is. It's strange, and it's everywhere in western Oklahoma. I mean, we even have some of it here in eastern Oklahoma, but not nearly as much as you have western. Yeah. But the other problem with using it on your layout is it stains everything it touches. And Dennis probably knows this. Is your vehicle white? Your work vehicle?
No, my work vehicle's black. My wife's is though, but most of the roads she drives on is cleachy.
Okay, because if you drive on red dirt roads in Oklahoma with a white truck, you're going to have a red bottom half of your truck, and it does not come off. It'll stain the paint. It's pretty hardy soil, actually.
I would say yes. Watch next week's update, Steve, and anyone else who's interested, and I will throw some pictures up of what I used, which is I've got 3 really good pictures of the Durango and Silverton that kind of encapsulates what I want the whole backside area of what I'm calling, the workbench pass here that I want to look like. And I presume that there's a lot of sandstone in that, but it's a collage of different things, but it's definitely brown, red. There's a lot of black in it as well, which I didn't really do a lot of here, but there's a lot of this in places on that sheer rock wall. But I'm going to try and recreate those photos on the opposite side of what's here, which I'm going to discuss that eventually, and maybe on one of the video I'm working on now, which will come out in December, probably sometime. I'm going to discuss at the end of that video, because that's what I'm going to do today before I move on, different ideas of how, because it is kind of difficult to, because what I've got right now, when I look at it, what I see is just a straight wall. And the rocks themselves are somewhat convincing as rocks, but there's no depth. There's no depth like in the real world, when you look at those things, there's height, there's depth of seam, there's things that make them 3D. And what I've got right now, for the most part, is there's no three-dimensional depth into the rocks. They're just flat. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to figure out how to do in where I'm at in my process right now, because I don't really like just, the flat wall. There needs to be undulations in both height and depth in the crevices. And figuring that out has been a little, I wouldn't say, I mean, I know what I need to do. It's just a matter of being brave enough to do it and hoping that you haven't removed so much material that you kind of ruin what you were working on.
And real quick to answer Floyd's question, yes, it is clay. In the depth, what helped for me was the backdrops, because on the one scene break that I have between backdrops is the gray rock face that I've got, that dark gray rock face. And the reason I went with that was because in one of the backdrops, pretty close to that edge, of that corner, is a rock feature in the distance that looks very, very much like what I put there. And so that when you look at it, it doesn't look like, oh, it's sore thumb. That just sticks out, just really odd. Because I was looking at what was in the backdrop. So that helps immensely with depth, I think.
Yeah.
But it's finding the right backdrop or painting the right backdrop to get what you want. Scott, that's pretty good.
So this is kind of what I'm talking about, where right here you can see I've gone into it quite a little bit, where this side, just looks flat, right? Where here there's some depth, but I still think that I need to cut some of this away to get it to where I want it exactly the way I want. But
see, and I've seen so many places in Colorado that look just like that, Dennis.
Yeah, and then the back side still, I've got these what I call kind of Aztec pyramids that I still need to kind of work on. But it's all a work in process. So,
and that's a lot of work, but I think, and this is coming from somebody that used a lot of rock molds to do his instead of carving them. That looks a lot better. I mean, you can use molds and make them look pretty good, but that looks a lot better than the rock molds.
Well, I kind of go back and forth, because to me the challenge here is that I want to do the same thing over and over again, right? Nature doesn't do that. So the trick is, can you either look at nature, replicate nature, because you're looking at a picture and then you can say, well, there was a great big gouge right here and then this happened, and then you can kind of try and recreate that. If you look at nothing and you do it, you find yourself repeating the same motions over and over again, because the way the knife lays in your hand, the way what you're working on is in your hand, and you end up with all those rocks look exactly the damn same way, and nature doesn't work that way. So figuring that out has been a process.
Yeah, making it random is the toughest thing with doing landscape. It's so easy to get on a set pattern of doing anything, whether it's planting trees, bushes, paint colors, anything.
That would be awesome, Scott.
To keep it random is just really I think the hardest thing to do with keeping it natural.
Well, and and speaking of random, I got this piece as well that I think this looks too random. Where
I don't think it's possible to be too random. I've seen sandy slopes right next to really rocky slopes. Yeah. So I don't think it's
well, and I'm going to have some of that too, but I don't know. Again, I think having a picture in front of you,
Well, yeah.
I think is probably the key. Even though what you're doing with your knife, you're never going to recreate what you're looking at for the most part, but what you do end up creating will not be something that you just did on your own.
Well, it'll look like it could belong in that same area.
Right. That to me, that's the key. Is don't rely on what you think something should look like. Look at something, try and recreate it, and you might come closer to the real thing.
Well, and we'll end with this because we're about over time here. But when my wife and my sister-in-law and I went up to Jackson Hole, we were driving in Colorado, and we were coming out onto I-70. I don't even remember exactly where we were, but it was getting ready to go west on I-70, and there was this giant rock outcropping on the high that they'd cut out for the highway to go through, for I-70 to go through. And without any prompting from me, I said nothing. And Brenda goes, and this was after I had started on the mountain, and I was always really concerned about what it was going to look like and all this stuff. And she said, those look just like your mountain. So, for me, that worked, because that's what I was after, something that looked natural.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have to look like any specific place, but it had to look halfway natural, like it could happen in nature. And she kind of,
that's the whole thing. Is,
that.
Does it look like it could have actually happened, or does it create the illusion that you're looking for?
Because that's what we're making, is an illusion.
Right.
That's what a model railroad layout is. I don't care if you're doing prototype or not. It's still an illusion.
Yeah. And I know when you end up doing, like with this kind of stuff, with this, for me, I end up, you're looking at an area this big.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it, you're like,
but when you put it back on a big wall,
when you step back, you go, okay, well, that's,
you go, perfect.
There's no doubt what that is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what we're after.
Anyone walking into the room would go, oh, hey, that's a mountain. That kind of looks like something you might see in the Royal Gorge, which is what I've used a lot of pictures of the Royal Gorge for what I'm working on here, because it lends itself well to what I'm doing. Yeah. And so did that one spot that I have from the Durango and Silverton is just, it's almost identical to what I've got going on the backside of this. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to getting to that, because I'm hoping to get the shapes that I'm looking for that will go, okay, that's just not a rock wall. That's a terrain feature.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hate to end the conversation because we're having a pretty good conversation here.
if we only started here.
Well, we can't do anything right. Yeah. So,
instead, guys, we started with our knees and with the phone on landscape mode.
Yeah, we're 3 or 4 minutes over already, so we better get out of here.
No one's gonna sue us. So
yeah. Well, guys, thanks for being here this weekend, and have a good rest of your weekend and a good week, and we'll be back next week. See you later.
Yep. Take care, guys.